I'm only human, I do what I can. I'm just a man, I do what I can. Don't put the blame on me. Don't put your blame on me.
Hi, my name is Jim Sheehy and this is reallyhuman.ie, and this video is going to be about hurt and anger. Right throughout our lives we have a sense of being cared for and a sense of caring for people. Sometimes it goes very well and sometimes, unfortunately, it doesn't go well. When it doesn't go well, usually it starts from some sense of loss. A person once said to me that you can describe anything that comes into a therapy room as an issue around loss. It can be loss of, for example, dignity. You take a teenager that's just been bullied in a school, they walk down a corridor, they're called names and so forth like that, they're cyberbullied. That person has experienced a sense of loss in dignity. They've lost their sense of who they are, what they're confident about, and so forth. And then you have the sense of a loss of status. For example, take the man who has lost his job. Once upon a time, he was well served by his finance, he was able to put food on the table, have a car outside the door. And during the recession, we found out that a lot of men suffered a loss in status and went through a really hard time regarding that. There can be also a loss of separation, a loss of a sense of when people attach themselves to something, and it can be to parents, whether it's to a spouse, that there is this sense of when they lose a parent or a spouse or a partner or a girlfriend or boyfriend, that there is this sense of loss of a sense of separation, a loss of attachment. And then you have the sense of trust and love. Trust and love is often around friendship. I often say that relationships are really based on friendship alone. No matter who the person is, whether it's a partner, whether it's a colleague at work or something like that, that very often how valid that relationship is actually how friendly the relationship is, how open, how honest, how transparent is that relationship. We can often assess any kind of relationship around friendship. So if trust and love is bruised, is taken away, there's a sense of betrayal, rejection, it leaves a huge void inside of us, a sense of, there I was with this person, exposing and being vulnerable in front of that person, and now it's all been shattered, and you can be left in pieces all over the floor. There can also be a loss of control, a sense of, for example, when a person who is old begins to lose a sense of mobility, dexterity, a sense of power in terms of having their voice heard, in terms of making decisions. All of this is a loss of control. When I had MS, for example, I had to get very used to a loss of control in certain areas, even in terms of the organs of my body. It can be a very often shaming experience when we lose these things, and shame is a very toxic thing. And then there's the ultimate one, and that's the loss of life. When we lose somebody in death, there is this sense of life stopping. There's a major pause where for at least 3 days, everybody stops around the death. But that death, depending on how severe the death is, if it's been a natural death of an elderly person, or if it's been a suicide or a tragic accident, it can go on for weeks and months and even years. So loss in all these areas is huge in our lives. And as I say, whoever comes into a therapy room, it can often be rooted in a sense of loss. If, unfortunately, you cannot get the loss expressed in some way, if you can't cry, if you can't say to somebody, I'm all over the place, I need help, then what happens is kind of strange. It kind of becomes inside, bottled up, and like a bottle of orange that's shaken so many times, if you shake it at the wrong time, it comes out and the cork comes off and it explodes into anger. Anger is a very natural feeling. It's like feeling happy, it's like feeling sad. It's neither good nor bad, it's just another feeling. It's a very important feeling. It's a feeling I love, actually, because of its strength. However, what's anger feeling angry about? It's kind of like an alarm system, and it's saying that there's an alarm going off right now, and it's saying that in this moment, whatever is happening, it's not fair. I'm not being respected. So that's the feeling, and that's neither right nor wrong, it's just there. What you do about it, how you express the anger, however, is huge. And this is where a lot of people have major issues around anger. Because anger and the expression of it in a healthy way is quite complex, because you're not only talking about the words, and words are very important. Actually, what words are you going to use to express anger to a friend or to a partner or something like that, or a child, when you're feeling extremely angry? But not only that, but the tone of the words. Have you just one tone for expressing all your anger, or have you got a different way, and maybe a consoling way, or something like that? And then there's the posture. Have you got an overpowering posture, an angry posture? Or again, sometimes it's enough just to be assertive, just to sit down with somebody and say, I feel really angry because of what you just said or done right then. And then the action that follows. So if I can express anger, do I deserve to be treated better than this? If you have a sense of, if you have a lack of self-esteem and you feel that I cannot express the anger, it can often leak out in terms of in unhealthy ways. It can be the wrong time and the wrong setting, when you just explosively and volcanically just roar, scream, and it just leaks out in all the wrong way. Because there is a kind of a spectrum. There is just being assertive, calmly angry, and then there's being aggressive. And sometimes, you might need to be aggressive with somebody who's really in your face. There might be a time for that. And then there is violence. So, particularly men, they often find it hard to go from one end of the spectrum to the other, and choosing when is it right to choose one way of expressing anger and when is it right to choose another one. You need to read the language of your own body. If you feel, for example, that your heart rate is going up, that you're really breathing very heavily, you need to check out and say, I need to check in with myself. How is my anger being expressed here? When it comes to anger, rule number one is, if you are out of control, get out. Get out of the room, get out of the house. That's the first thing. Take time out. A lot of people know that. That's the golden rule. But what a lot of people don't know is that there needs to be a time in after you leave the house, after you leave the room. I call it a time in. And there's three aspects to this. You come apart from the situation. You calm down, and we will learn a whole lot of techniques about calming down. And you need to get support. That support can be a friend, it can be a counsellor, it can be whatever. In the time in, you work on your personal stuff, away from the conflict, away from the person who's driving you mad, okay? So when communication and relationship is fraught in the home or the workplace, you wait until you're in your own space, and then you go back, choose the right time and the setting, and you express that anger to the person. I'm going to end with a few quotes, and wisdom comes right through the ages. So I'm going to actually say these words. These came hundreds and thousands of years ago. Muhammad, around 632 AD, said, when one becomes angry while standing, he should sit down. If the anger leaves him, well and good. Otherwise, he should lie down. Sound. Confucius, 479 BC, said, when anger arises, think of the consequences. That's a biggie. Before you get angry, know there will be consequences. The third one is Seneca, just around the time Jesus was around. And he said that anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. In other words, he was saying, if your anger is stored inside for a long time, it becomes bitter and sour. And then when it's poured out, it comes out in all sorts of nasty ways. And it can do far more harm to you than to the person to whom the anger is targeted. Thank you very much. This is reallyhuman.ie, and I enjoyed speaking to you today.
I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all.